What's up guys, in this video we're going to be building a simple forum inside of Jumpstart Pro in just a few minutes. So first things first, we need to generate the models that we're going to use in this application. And I'm going to generate a scaffold for the discussions. You might want to call this forum thread or something like that, but you can't use the word thread because that's taken in Ruby as a reserved keyword for the multi-threading class. So inside of here we need a title for every discussion, but we also want a user references so that we have a reference on who created that thread, and we'll generate that scaffold there. And then we'll also generate a model for the post. This is going to have a discussion references, a user references, and a body, which will be a rich text, action text field. So we'll go ahead and run those and run Rails DB migrate. And once we have that, we're going to need to modify the model a little bit to add accepts nested attributes on the discussion so you can automatically create a post when you create a discussion. So if we open up the discussion model inside of our application, we can say has many posts, dependent, destroy, and we can add a scope in here for sorting these. And so we will order this by updated at descending. So whenever the updated at gets touched, that will sort to the top, which will just show you the active conversations at the top all of the time. So you can change this however you like, but this keeps it very simple, kind of intuitive in the way that a lot of forums work. So then we need to validate title present is true, and we're going to accept nested attributes for posts. And this is going to require us to go into the discussions controller, and down here at the bottom we're going to need to change our discussion params here, and we're going to have posts attributes, and this will be body so that we can receive a post and the body for that and save that all in one transaction. So let's also go to the post model, and we'll do a scope for this one, sorted, and in this case we just want to order by created at ascending, and that's going to make sure our oldest posts are showing up first and they show up in order. So now if we hop back in the browser, we can go to the discussions tab here that's generated by our scaffold in Jumpstart Pro, and we can create a new discussion. Now we need to modify this form so that we don't include the user, but we also include the post in there so that you can create a new discussion with a title and one new post. So if we open up the discussion form.html.erb file, we can delete the user ID in here, and we're going to add that nested attribute for the post body. So here we're going to say form.fields for posts, do post, and inside of here we can do a regular old form group, close the div, and we'll do form.label body, or rather this should be post.label body, and we'll do post.rich text field body, and we will also, or rich text area body, and we'll also add in the data controller mentions target mentions.field that will enable the stimulus controller to add user mentions to that. Now, if you're generating a scaffold for the posts, this would automatically be added for you. We need to do that ourselves because we're adding this to the discussion, which didn't have the rich text area on it. The other thing is we probably want to set this up so that it's only visible on the new form. So if we say form.object.new record ? We can run this code, and when we edit our discussions, we won't see this post edit because that wouldn't really make sense. We only want to edit the title if we are editing. So if we refresh our page, we do not get a post here, and that is because we need to go into our discussions controller, and inside of the new, we're going to say at discussion.post.new. That will instantiate a new one in memory, and voila, we can post our text here. So let's say hello world. Hey. So this failed because there is no user being attached to the discussion or the post, and that's a required association that we have. So to fix this, let's first go into the user model and say has many discussions, and we can also say has many posts in here, and then we can go into our discussions controller and modify our create right here. So rather than doing this through the discussion model, we're going to say current user.discussions.new. That's going to set that association for us and fix the first error. And the second error, we want to just go through discussion.posts.each, and we will set the post.user equals current user, and that's going to assign the current user to both of those models whenever they are submitted. So now we can create our discussion, and it should go through correctly. Now, I'm not signed in, so we got discussions for nil class, and we need to go and set a before action here. Before action, authenticate user, and we'll say accept index and show, and that will make sure that we are logged in for all of these except if you're just browsing the index and the show page. So let's refresh our page, and we'll log in as chris@gorails.com. I already have a user account, and now we can go to the new discussions. Let's try this one more time. Hello world, hey, and create discussion, and there we go. So now it is working, and we have access to all of these discussions here, and we can view them and all of that work. So now we need to spruce up our discussion page, our forum threads page, and we can go in here and change this up a little bit. So first things first, let's just change this to the title. Instead of displaying the discussion ID up here at the top, let's replace that with the discussion title, and let's get rid of this user as well. We don't really need to see that, and we'll go through instead and put this in as the post. So let's render out each of the posts. So we'll say at discussion.post.sorted.each do post, and actually we can just go through here and say let's just simply render out the post partial. So render post.sorted should take care of rendering the app views post.html.erb partial. So if we refresh our page, we should see that it complains about that partial being missing, which it is, which we can go create. So let's make a directory called app views posts, and we'll edit app views posts _ post.html.erb. Now I'm going to set this up where we use the DOM ID for the post as the ID of this, so we can link to each one of these posts. And let's set a couple classes on here: flex, pb6, border b, mb6, and group. And we'll go ahead as well and set class mr6, and we'll display the user avatar in here, which we can do with an image tag, and we have a helper method inside of Jumpstart Pro called avatar URL4, and you can pass it in either a user or a team, and it will print out the avatar URL for you. So we'll say post.user, class rounded full, and height will be 40, width will be 40, and then we can display the context. So let's display that as flex1 div class mb4. We'll put a little header section in here, and then underneath that we'll have a div with the post.body from action text. So up here, we're going to have a span class equals font semi-bold, and we'll print out post.user.name and close that span. And let's just check and see how this looks now. There we go. And the other thing we want to put in here is the timestamp. So we'll say text gray 600, and we'll print out some sort of separator there. Maybe we'll do just a hyphen, and we'll link to the local time ago helper post.created at, and we'll point this to the discussion path with @discussion, but we will have the anchor set to the post.id. So that will link to this ID up here at the top. Then we'll add class ML1, hover, underline, and text gray 700. So now we have this, and you might want to change this hyphen to something that looks a little prettier, but we have our post being rendered out here in a nicer format and aligned with Flexbox and all of that good stuff. And now we need to go and insert a little form at the bottom so that you can reply to this. So to add that form, we're going to go to our routes. We're going to go and say resources posts inside of a nested block around the discussions. And so this is what your routes will need to look like. Then we can create a app controllers post controller.rb, say class post controller, inherits from application controller, and we're going to have a before action here, set discussion, which will be private, and we'll say set discussion, which will look up the discussion based upon the ID and the URL. So discussion.find params discussion ID, and then we can work off of this for every single post that we process in here. So we're gonna have editing, deleting, and creating new posts. So this is where we're going to send our request to, but our post form on side of discussion show needs to be built first. So inside of here, we're gonna go underneath all of these posts. Let's do it inside of the shadowed section. And we'll say if user signed in, then we will display div class md flex, and we will have the div class mr4 hidden md flex shrink 0 md block. So what this is doing is saying by default on mobile it's going to be hidden, but once we get up to the medium screen size, we're going to display it as a block and then make it shrinkable so that it shows up there. Then we're going to say image tag avatar URL for current user, and we'll have class rounded as full and height of 40, width of 40. Then we'll have our form width, which will be model @discussion post.new and class of flex1 do form. And inside of our form, we're going to do the same sort of thing as we had on the discussion form. We'll have form.rich text area, body data, controller, mentions, and the target is mentions.field. And we'll close that ERB tag, and down here we'll say class equals form group, and we'll say text right div, and we'll have our form.submit, we'll say reply, and class will be button tertiary, which will be a gray button for us, and optionally you could say data disable with submitting ... and that should run our JavaScript for it. So now we have our form here with our tricks editor and everything like that. We can also improve the width of this by a little bit by expanding it to 3XL, and that doesn't wrap anymore and looks a bit nicer. And so when we submit this, we need to go and create that create action in our post controller. So let's go through and create that controller, post controller, dev create. And here we just want to say at post equals at discussion.post.new, and we'll have a post params method that we'll define in just a minute, and we'll set post.user equals current user. And then we can have if post.save redirect to discussion path at discussion, and we can set the anchor that we redirect to as at post.id as well. And otherwise we want to redirect to at discussion, and we can have an alert that is, say, post.errors full messages.first, so we'll just display whatever message that might be. So then we need to define our post params, params.require post permit body. Simple as that. And now we should be able to submit this and have it show up right here. So while we're here, let's just go ahead and define our edit and our update and our destroy actions. So we'll say destroy. This one's going to be very simple. We're going to look up the post, call it destroy on it, and redirect to the discussion. So for these, we want to say before action, set post only on edit, update, and destroy. We don't have a show action, and we'll have our set post. And we want to say discussion dot post dot where user is current user, and actually we want, instead of where, we want find by ID is params ID and user is current user. So that's going to make sure it's scoped to the user. You can't edit someone else's posts, and that it is going to be the right one based upon the ID and the URL. So then we have that for our edit. For our update, we want to do basically the same thing at post.update post params. We will redirect to the discussion path for that post, and otherwise we'll display the error messages, and that's it. The last thing we need to do in our controller is we need to set at post equal to the discussion post inside of set post, just so that we have that variable saved. And then I've went ahead and in post.html off screen, I added this code right here. So user signed in, current users, post user will display the edit link, and that will be that. And then I also went ahead and created postedit.html.erb. So it's very similar to what we have before for our create, but we actually have a cancel link and a delete link, so you can go ahead and do either one of those from there. So that's all there is to it. You can pause this and copy this in if you want, if you were following along. And it looks like this. We can go edit our post, save our changes, and our text will show up right there. Voila. So with the core of our discussions and posts on them built, we can go ahead and add notifications. And this is pretty straightforward. We're going to go into the post model, so model post.rb, and inside of here we want to grab the users for it. And so we'll make a send notifications method here that we can call after creating a new post successfully. And we will say users equals discussion dot users dot unique minus the user who created this post. We don't want to notify them of their own post. So let's go into our discussion.rb and let's add has many users through posts. That will be able to give us a list of all of the users who have posted inside of this discussion. That will give us this. We will call unique to remove any duplicates, and we will subtract out the user who made this post, and that will give us a list of all the other users that we want to notify. So then we can just call something like discussion mailer.new post, and we'll pass in self because that is the post that we were talking about, and we'll pass in the user, who is the person we want to notify. So here you could add in other things like adding notification records to your database if you want to display those in a notification bell somewhere, but we're just going to handle email notifications. So now we need to go into our console and run Rails generate mailer discussion mailer with the new post action inside of it. And inside of there, we can go into our discussion mailer.rb file that it created for us, and we can define this. So this is going to take a post and a user, and let's set @post and @user equal to post and user so that we have access to those. And we need to define our to and from and subject here. So we're going to say user.name and user.email. So that's going to be our to. Our from will be from the post.user.name, but this will be like no reply at example.com because we're sending it on behalf of this user, but it's from our app, so we don't want to put their email address in there. We want to put our app's email address in, and our subject will be, our example app. We might want to preface this, and then the @post, or let's do @discussion as well. So let's add discussion in here, and we'll say post.discussion. So we have reference to that, and let's put in the @discussion.title in there. So our discussions, as you remember, have a title attribute. We want to probably just put that in as the subject for our email because the actual post content will be put inside of the email. So we have these three variables set, and we can now edit the new post.html.erb template, and I'm just going to paste in an example template that I'm using, and this will display the image tag for the user and then their name, and say they just posted a reply in this channel with a link to it. Then we'll print out the post body, and this is all made possible because this right here is rendering action text. That's all made possible because we're in application mailer importing the application helper into this. So everything available in application helper is available in our mailers. You can add and remove things from here if you'd like to add other helpers into your mailers, but that's all we need. So we have a little message here showing you where to view the discussion, and that is it. So now if we go to our browser and we have the second user go ahead and do this. Actually, we first need to go into our post controller, and we need to send notifications after create. So @post.send notifications, and this will call our model post.rb send notifications method, and we want to make sure that we set this to deliver later or deliver now so that we make sure that those emails are being delivered. Right now, if we didn't have that, it would just create the emails in memory and never try to send them. So with deliver later, that will use your background workers to send, and we should be able to now go and write a post, click reply, and we should see that this does get sent inside of our letter opener admin. And here you go, you can see our message ASDF blah blah blah, and example user just posted a reply in hello world, and you can see our subject, and all of that is set up correctly. So there we go, we have a very simple forum and email notifications and all of that ready to go. There's some more tweaks you can do to the UI to include other things and improve this on the homepage, but I will leave that up to you. And that is it. So if you have any other questions, let me know at jumpstartrails.com and visit the forums.